Well, we've got exclusive polling now, and it shows that when Labor voters were asked who they could choose, if the party could choose a different leader from Anthony Albanese, who would they like to pick? And the Labor figure who came out on top was Treasurer Jim Chalmers, with 21% of voters choosing him. He was followed by Tanya Plibersek, with 17% of Labor voters choosing her. Tony Burke, who fancies himself a future leader, don't know why, had only 5% of support from Labor voters surveyed. About half of the voters actually didn't know who to pick. Let's bring in now Labor figure and GXO Strategies Director Cameron Milner, who's in London, and former Howard advisor David Gazard. Cameron, your firm commissioned this polling. What does it tell us about how voters view the Prime Minister?
Well, the results aren't good for Albo because cost of living is the number one issue for Australians, and then there's daylight. But 2/3 of those people polled don't think Labor's doing a good job on cost of living. They think they're doing a terrible or poor job. So every time Labor tries to get the message out in cost of living, there's another Albo fiasco, another buying $1 million house or a Qantas upgrade. It's crowding up the message. And so what we polled was whether Labor voters wanted to see someone else than Albo. And as we saw, clearly, head and shoulders, Jim Chalmers and Tanya Plibersek, streets in front of the other leadership contenders if Albo was not to be the leader.
Yeah, and yet you have leadership rumblings. I mean, people talk about Jason Clare, they talk about Tony Burke. Well, according to this poll, no one, not even Labor voters, 5% want those two figures. David Gazard, exactly. There was a 3-point lift in the Coalition's primary vote, according to this poll, taking it to 39%. So it still needs to get a bit higher for Dutton to be in a governing position. But in terms of voters, well, they didn't give Dutton a glowing endorsement either. So do you think he needs to improve his image as well?
Look, the Coalition's figures are inching higher with each polling cycle. So I don't think anyone will be particularly alarmed with that. And bear in mind that there has only been one-term government in Australia's history. That was the 1931 Scullin government. So it would buck historical odds for Dutton to get over the line this time. That said, he inches closer and closer and closer, and the voters have yet to really switch on in this campaign. So it will be down to him to outline a series of policies that will go to cost of living, to get in touch with people when they switch on in this campaign. So I think everything is going in Peter Dutton and the Coalition's favour in this election, although it is very, very tight, but tighter than you would expect in a first-term Albanese government.
Yeah, it's amazing that, as you say, it's been nearly 100 years since there was a one-term Labor government, and yet Albanese will be fighting to hold on to power. Now, James Paterson has grilled the Home Affairs Secretary in the Senate today, criticising her priorities after the Australian flag was dumped from photographs on their website. Cameron, we've got national security, border protection issues, community safety, yet this is their priority, dumping the Australian flag.
Well, it's a victory for the woke, isn't it? And no doubt they had focus groups and they took off-site day studies to see whether the Australian flag should be removed. Look, the public servant should be doing one job and one job only. They should be tackling cost of living, not doing things like taking the Australian flag away, especially, as you say, at a time of heightened national security and national unity, and the Australian flag represents all of that. So no, the public service are off on their own woke agenda here, and it's not good.
Well, here was the official responding to James Paterson's questioning. Have a look. Okay, we'll play you that grab when we've got it now. Have a look.
Secretary, I couldn't help but notice that there was a change recently in the photographs of senior departmental officials on the Home Affairs website. Are you familiar with that change?
Some time ago, I asked my staff to redo the photographs of the senior executive without flags in the background. Is that the change you're referring to?
Yes. So sometime between July and August, we noticed that the headshots of yourself and other senior officials in the department previously had the Australian national flag as well as the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander flags in the headshot. and then after that period, they're no longer in the headshot. What was the reason for removing the flags from the headshots?
I wanted to have photos that were less formal.
He does such a sensational job, James Patterson, but you'd have to think this is just cancel culture gone mad when the Home Affairs Department removes Australian flags. It's absolutely ridiculous. David Gazard, as we speak, Israel is on standby for Iran threatening to another retaliation strike. There are concerns that this is going to happen in the next 48 hours. I mean, Iran has said in media reports that they plan to hit Israel again before the US election. The US has implored them not to take that action. David Gazard, this is really worrying. It's hard to know what exactly to believe, but we are seeing reports that Iran is preparing its ballistic missiles once again.
It's consistent with the timing of the US election. That would be point number one that I'd make. If they do anything, they'll want to get in before the election, lest they face the wrath of a possible Trump election. The other thing I would, though, say is that Iran has talked a big game throughout the last year, and it's been happy to let its proxies in Hamas and Hezbollah do all the wet work, which makes you wonder what's in it for Hamas and Hezbollah. They've endured all the carnage, doing all the work for Iran. The other point I'd make is this: Iran would have to be very mindful of what Israel has done through superb work through its intelligence agencies and its operatives. And they would be thinking at the moment, well, if we strike Israel, what may happen to us? So I've watched Iran for months now. They talk a big game and it's never followed up. Instead, they leave all the work to its proxies who endure all the damage, which makes you wonder why people in Lebanon and in Gaza continue to do it.
Yeah, I'm very concerned about this because, you're right, they do have left a lot to the proxies, but we have seen 2 direct attacks from Iran to Israel, which is unprecedented. I think we do need strong US leadership. It's why this election is so critical for all of us in the West, because you've got these Ayatollahs who are emboldened. They really shook Israel with that last attack. And then all you see from Joe Biden and Kamala Harris is, ceasefire, let Iran continue to amass its nuclear capabilities, continue to develop its nuclear capabilities. Eventually the US and Israel will have to deal with that, will have to target the nuclear sites, because what are we going to do? Sit back here and let them develop a nuclear weapon that would affect all of us in the West? It's insanity. Cameron, just quickly before we go, I want to get your opinion on this Albanese's election-style performance yesterday in Adelaide. He didn't give an interview for 5 days. He was hiding from the media because of the upgrade scandal. And then we see him come out and basically declare that the cost of living crisis is all but over. What did you think of that?
Well, it was Albanese's mission accomplished moment, wasn't it? With a sort of crowd of faithful ALP members rather than the scrutiny of the media pack. This is how he wants to communicate. But it's not cutting through. Voters are speaking, as we saw in our poll, Shari. Albanese has a huge problem with credibility with voters on the issue of cost of living, and a set speech in Adelaide is not going to fix that for him, nor is cutting HECS debt for university elites.
Yeah, all right. Cameron Milner in London, David Gazard, thank you both so much.